Lisa Marie Kosis from Global One Health. In this video, I want to talk about the Romanian deadlift. I've already addressed the classic kettlebell sumo deadlift, and now I'm going to talk about the Romanian variation. So the primary difference between these two kinds of deadlifts is where the weight is in relationship to the body and at the bottom or each rep, or in between each rep. So the classic conventional deadlift with barbell, or the sumo deadlift with the kettlebell, is that the weight is going to make contact with the ground in between each rep. In a Romanian deadlift, you still go into the hip hinge pattern, but you don't bring the weight all the way to the ground. So it is a different approach and can be used different ways in your programming based upon what it is that you're working on and what your goals are. But I recommend doing both variations because they both have great benefits. So I'll just quickly show you the kettlebell sumo deadlift. I'm not going to break it down. I've already done that in the previous video and in this kind of two-part series of the deadlifts with the kettlebell. But just so you can see for a quick reference point, right, I'm in my lockout position. I grab my kettlebell, right? So the classic kettlebell sumo deadlift, as it would say, the weight is dead weight on the ground. I'm lifting it dead weight. I come up into my lockout position and I go all the way back down to the ground. So that is your classic deadlift position. The weight will always make contact with the ground. In the Romanian, you're going to do the hip hinge, but you're not going to put the weight down. But you want to start the same way. So I'll show you from the profile view. Again, I break down a little bit more about the mechanics in that first part video in the series. So you can certainly check that out if you'd like more information on that. Right, so in my lockout position, and I talk about the positioning more specifically in that video as well. So do check that out to learn more information on that. But once I have my position set, again, show you from the profile view, and I'll show you both angles, I'm going to go over into my hip hinge, grab my bell, and then I stand up. Now, in the Romanian, I'm going to break it down here. I'm going to go into the hip hinge, but I'm going to stop about part way down. I know you can't see the bell as well from this angle, but I just want you to see the profile of the spine. So I'm never getting that sensation of going into as much hip hinge as I do in the conventional. I'll just take one more. And then, of course, even if you're doing the Romanians, at the very end, you want to be mindful that you finish and be conscious of your activation throughout. So what I mean by that, well, I'll show you with the profile view, is say I finished my last Romanian of the set, say I've just done 10, I finished 10, be conscious how you put the bell down. So once you're finished with the set and you're on your last rep and you're, quote, done with that round, don't just plop the kettlebell down, right? You want to be mindful that you're still putting it down as if you were going to do one more rep. Always keep that in mind. So from a front view, so you can see the angle of the weight, right? So another difference really is because you're not going all the way to the ground, you're going to stop the hip hinge, right, a little bit sooner. So it's a little bit less range of motion for the hip hinge, but you also, you want to make sure you're maintaining that full activation throughout the whole body in both variations, but you're not getting that moment to even have a moment to reset as you might in a conventional where the weight is on the ground and it's safe to do so. You want to have to, very important to keep that tension throughout the whole body. So from a front view so that you can see, right here you get the better view of that kind of externally rotated corkscrew position of my legs. So I like to think about really grounding legs and feet into the floor and corkscrewing at the same time. So it's a downward and externally rotated outward intention, but I don't want my external rotation, I don't want the feet to go too wide, and I don't want the arches to come up, right? So you want to think of corkscrewing from the hip down, but anchor through all 10 toes, especially that first big toe is super important because it is the strongest toe, and it really helps you connect to your midline of your leg musculature as well. So as I go down, I grab my bell, I lock into position. You just saw the corkscrew of the arms as well. I stand up. Now as I go into my hip hinge, reaching my hips back, I'm going to go to where the handle is a little bit below my knees, and then I come back up. So I hip hinge. I'm still doing the same mechanical breathing, exhaling at the top. I get my air in. I go into my hip hinge. I come up, and I force the air out. And I'm going to place the belt all the way down, mindfully maintaining that neutral spine position until the weight is completely supported by the ground at rest. So that is the difference between the two. Each of these videos that I've posted on the deadlift with the kettlebell show you the two variations. And mechanically, it's very similar with the barbell. But if you don't have access to a barbell, kettlebells are certainly take up less space and probably a little bit easier for transport, for storing at home. So practice that. They're a great exercise. Again, deadlifts are fantastic for strengthening the posterior chain of your body. So if your tendency is to slouch at your desk, you want to strengthen those spinal erector muscles in the back that run vertically from the base of the neck down to L5, your lower back. Strengthen those spinal erectors because they will help to improve your posture in seated position. And also, if you spend a lot of days sitting at a desk in front of your computer, you want to activate your glutes whenever you can. So deadlifts, fantastic exercises for strengthening the glute structure, the hamstrings, and that whole posterior chain or back side of the body. So that is the Romanian deadlift.